Guys, this Saturday night, Derrick Lewis can make history. He can have the most knockouts of all time in the heavyweight division and truly be the heaviest-handed person in the UFC's history. Does he do it? Nick and I are going to break that down right now. What's up, Barnhill family? Welcome back to the channel. Today, Nick and I are breaking down the main event of this Saturday's card, August 8th, Derrick Lewis and Aleksei Oleinik, and what a showdown it is going to be.
Man, fun card. It's like a little bit of an appetizer before next weekend's big one, the biggest fight in heavyweight history. But this one's you can't overlook this one.
Absolutely not. So next week we're going to find out more than likely who the greatest fighter in heavyweight history is. But this weekend, we could find out if Derrick Lewis is the heaviest-handed fighter in UFC history. If he beats Aleksei Oleinik, he will have 11 knockouts in the heavyweight division, breaking a three-way tie and making him the best knockout artist in UFC heavyweight history. So,
according to the stats, that makes him number
facts
one.
Are facts,
and
as they say.
The record's not on the line. I think it's probably owned by his opponent, but I can't imagine that if Aleksei Oleinik gets a submission tomorrow,
right?
Or Saturday, that he doesn't become even further the champ with the most submissions.
Yeah, so we have potentially here the greatest knockout artist in heavyweight history versus the greatest submission artist in heavyweight history. Yeah. There might be an argument to be made when you think of some of the great submissions in heavyweight history. You know, Frank Mir breaking people's shoulders, essentially turning their arms into chicken wings, and Fabricio Verdum being perhaps the most decorated grappler in heavyweight history. But I will say no one is more dangerous from the mounted, or not from being in mount, from being mounted by your opponent. Yeah. Never in the history of ever has there been a fighter more dangerous when you are mounting him than Aleksei Oleinik.
Yeah, they don't call him the boa constrictor for nothing. He's got probably the only person in the heavyweight division that even has close to as many fights as him is Aleksei Oleinik. Right. But if he wins on Saturday night, that gives him 60 professional wins in professional mixed martial arts, which is insane. Most people don't even get 60 fights or even 30 fights for that matter. You know, like Derrick Lewis, he's a very active, longtime UFC fighter. This will be his 31st fight.
Right. And, you know, we're talking about the Khabib fight that's coming up as well, and this will be his 29th fight, and he wants to sail off into the sunset at 30-0. Well, Aleksei Oleinik will have doubled the amount of wins that Khabib wants to have when he ends his career and walks away from the sport if he can get past Derrick Lewis. Yeah. So the question is, how do you see this one going? Do you see it going any other way than either Lewis by knockout or Oleinik by submission, or is it as cut and dry as that?
Usually I like to give a little bit more of an in-depth breakdown on things like that, but when you have a stylistic matchup like this, you can't help but think that. Like, yeah, Derrick Lewis, if he's not going to get a Ezekiel choke from the bottom on Oleinik, and I don't think Oleinik's going to knock him out. So while I do know that Oleinik has the ability to go to the judges and win a decision against top-level opponents like Fabricio Verdum that he just did, I don't see it going that way. I think these guys, they're big bodies, they're older guys, and one of them's going to get the job done the way that they do best. And it all depends on who gets over on the other one. But I don't see this going all five. It is a 5-rounder, isn't it?
Yes, this is the main event, the 5-round fight. Here's the thing. Derrick Lewis is known for a lot of things. Having a great gas tank is not one of them.
Yeah.
And what we see with Derrick Lewis sometimes when he faces a really good grappler, like when he faced Daniel Cormier, he's almost... once he gets exhausted, he's looking for a way out. Yeah. He's very dangerous in the beginning. He's as you saw up until the last second, he's dangerous. Yeah. He won a fight at 4 minutes and 59 seconds into the last round. So he can knock you out at any time. His power is always there. But once he starts to get worn down by a really good grappler, he tends to kind of give certain positions a little easier than maybe he should, and goes down the route of getting submitted. So I think that Oleinik has a really good shot if he can weather the storm of Derrick Lewis and sort of tire him out and win some grappling exchanges and start to take the wind out of the sails of Lewis and exhaust him a little bit of being able to wear him out and ultimately get the submission.
There's a few things in this fight that make it interesting. Obviously, the few times where Oleinik was able to score submissions from the bottom, he was his opponent was either trying to take him down or clinch with him.
Right.
Derrick Lewis isn't really a clinch or a takedown guy. He's a stand and throw with you, and he has really great hands, and he actually is more athletic than people realize. Some of the stuff where we watch him give up positions on the bottom and give up positions on the ground is weird and it's unorthodox. But then when you see him kind of catch his breath for a few seconds and explode out of it, he's generally pretty successful at getting back to his feet. It's a weird thing. And
so also, it's almost like a tactic that he uses to catch his breath.
Yeah, I wouldn't advise kids that are watching and aspiring to be fighters to let somebody mount you or let somebody get a dominant position.
But there again, if you're Aleksei Oleinik, once you take mount, he's got you right where he wants you.
Yeah, these guys kind of, they defy all odds when it comes to grappling. But Derrick Lewis has that explosion where he can get people off of him even from a dominant position on the ground and get it back to standing one way or the other. And, he's super athletic. Look at the way he jumps and kicks and stuff like that. But I think he lets a lot of his gas out. He's like a Ferrari or something. He will go 200 miles an hour for the first round, but then the second round, he's going to have to slow down a little bit. It's just carrying too much man.
Yeah, I think so. I think that it really is as cut and dry as this. Lewis has got, a minute or two in the beginning of every round to really work his game plan and try to seek the knockout. And then after that, Oleinik, I think, is going to start to take over in the later parts of the rounds, and especially in the later rounds themselves, if it goes that far. So it's really going to come down to, can Lewis do enough damage and hurt Aleksei enough to where he's sort of retreating and then ultimately get a knockout, or is it going to be one of those situations where Oleinik is able to get past the danger zone, close the distance, get Lewis to the ground, and then start to work his game? This really is like a throwback to the old UFC days where it's like a boxer versus a jiu-jitsu guy. Yeah. And if the boxer can successfully keep the fight on the feet, then he's obviously going to do very well. If the jiu-jitsu guy can get the boxer on the ground, it's literally game over. It's like if an alligator and a tiger were to fight. Mm-hmm. It depends on where the fight takes place. If the tiger can drag the alligator on land, he's got it all day. If the alligator pulls the tiger into the water, it's game over for the tiger. But that said, my prediction and my gut feeling on this fight is that the Black Beast is going to get it done.
Oh, man.
And I cite the fact that I was actually in San Antonio when Oleinik fought Walt Harris, and Walt Harris knocked him out in 12 seconds. I do think that Lewis has got more power than Walt Harris, although Walt Harris is a very powerful fighter. And I think that Oleinik is susceptible to the knockout by the heavy-handed striker, and I think Lewis is going to be able to find the chin and close the night early. Either way, I don't see it getting past the first round. I see it submission or knockout in the first round, but I'm going to pick knockout Derrick Lewis first round.
Bringing one home for H-Town.
For H-Town.
Well, yeah, it's hard for me to pick against an H-Town, favorite like Derrick Lewis.
Yeah, and he is a fan favorite.
Yeah, I bought a T-shirt for Derrick Lewis at the last UFC event because I'm such a fan.
Yeah,
and we know a lot of people that train Muay Thai and striking with his coach, and his coach is well known, well decorated guy out of Houston, Texas. But to me, it's such an interesting matchup because it's like a polarizing thing. It's black or white. Which way is it going to go? We don't really know. They're both great mixed martial artists, but they do have their favorite styles and positions and stuff like that. I'm not going to go against Derrick Lewis. I know that me and you tend to pick the same fighters a lot, and there's a little bit of fun when we pick opposite fighters, but I'm going to go with Derrick Lewis. I think, after you have 60 wins and 13 losses in combat sports and professional MMA, your chin is just not the same. And he's 43 years old, Oleinik, that is. And your chin just goes as time goes on. And he's got 70-something fights. It's just, you can't fight a heavy-handed monster like the Black Beast Derrick Lewis.
For your 75th fight or whatever it is. Yeah.
And expect to take a bunch of shots and not, go to sleep. So I think Derrick Lewis gets the job done, and I think we'll see it probably get done in the first round, maybe the second round, but my prediction looks kind of similar to yours. First round for the Black Beast.
There we go. That's it, guys. Don't say we picked him just because we're H-Town biased, but we kind of are.
Maybe a little biased. But I think both of them, also a little side note, they should both, be ready to say something on the mic that has to do with next weekend's main event. Because
good point.
Because we might see the two guys competing for the heavyweight title next weekend leave the sport. One has already said that that's what's happening, and the other one, I mean, he's already climbed to Mount Everest, the top of it, seen the view, and is regarded as one of the greatest of all time, win or lose next weekend. But if Stipe and DC leave, that vacant belt is there, and the first few people that deserve a shot, obviously Ngannou. I think if John Jones wants it, that's something that could happen. But Derrick Lewis is right there. And
absolutely.
If Oleinik beats him, Oleinik is right there.
Yep.
So it's kind of anybody's game.
That's a good point. Yeah, we really could have like an empty space there come end of August. And if Derrick Lewis, don't have to worry about Derrick Lewis saying something creative on the mic, because you know that he's the greatest mic worker of all time, in my opinion.
Post-fight speeches. That's the one thing about Derrick Lewis. You hope he wins every time he fights, because when he gets on that microphone, it is pure gold. So that's part of the reason I want to see him win. But they love stars. He has one of the most poppin' Instagram pages there is. He's known on the streets, not just in Houston, but all over the world. And if the title becomes vacant, he's the perfect person to throw in there. If Derrick Lewis can get a heavyweight title, that's something special, and I think they can really market that well.
Yeah, and how about get back in there with Ngannou, and this time don't lay an egg, guys.
They owe it to us.
Yeah, they do. They owe us a good banger.
And in my opinion, he came to try to fight. Ngannou was too protective of his,
undefeated sort of aura type of thing.
Right. Yeah, being this monster, this unbeatable monster. And I think Derrick Lewis catches him. He goes to sleep just like everybody else, but same thing can be said for Ngannou's power, obviously. So
a part of me really wants to see that run back in a way that is actually a good fight.
Here's a fun one. You probably can't convince Dana of this, but what if, let's just say hypothetically, Daniel Cormier and Stipe Miocic both retire, walk off into the sunset, and the vacant title's there, and they make the most boring fight of all time in the UFC, which was Ngannou versus Lewis, the rematch for the heavyweight title, the vacant heavyweight title. That could be something.
I think there's something to market around most boring fight of all time.
Yeah,
that's kind of funny. It's like lean into it, because Derrick Lewis certainly has leaned into the fact that fight sucked.
Right.
Like he doesn't try to defend it, which I love about Derrick. He's like, that was not a very good performance by myself. I'm mad at myself. Doing his normal Derrick Lewis in his own Derrick Lewis style. So I think that if you could almost market that fight and lean into the fact that it sucked so bad the first time that it can't be anything but better.
And it could potentially put a lot of pressure on both fighters and give us the show that we want to see.
Yeah.
And what everybody was like, dude, Ngannou's fighting Lewis. And it was just an absolute dump of a fight. And everybody was so mad. Even the fighters were mad. And how fun there's never stories like that in MMA. So if we can get a little parody, a different little flair on the story, I think that would actually be really cool. And I'm not predicting that's what happens for the heavyweight title if it becomes vacant, but I mean, it definitely could with the right words on the post-fight speech from Derrick Lewis.
Absolutely. Well, guys, first he's got to get past Aleksei Oleinik.
Yeah.
Nick and I both think that he will. Sound off in the comments. Let us know if you agree. Let us know if you disagree. Let's keep the conversation going there, guys. Yeah. As always, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. It helps us tremendously, as well as a review on our podcast, which is available everywhere you listen to podcasts. Yep. So check us out, guys. The Barnhill Brothers. We're on the rise.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah. And I definitely want to know what you guys think about the rematch and Ngannou-Lewis potentially being for the vacant title. That would be a fun one.
Let us know, guys. Have a great day.